was indeed a tradition unlike any other, the Masters in November. And just a few moments ago, it came to an end, and we have assembled an all-star panel. I think we can call it that because in our own minds, everybody here is an all-star, to talk about what just happened, the dominance by Dustin Johnson, the other storylines unfolding, what it was like to have this tournament in the fall. And let me walk everybody through the all-star panel and introduce both our viewers on our live stream video, as well as those of you who are listening to the podcast. So first of all, happy to have on Jason Guss, who is a former teacher of the year in the state of Michigan, does a lot of work with a lot of golfers of all skill levels, including those who play the game for a living. And he's done work with Golf Channel and Golf Digest. And I pulled him, I believe, literally out of the woods where he was hunting for Bambi to come in and talk about the Masters. Also, Adam Fonseca from Golf Unfiltered. Those of you who listen to the Fore Golfers Network podcast have heard Adam on here a number of times. You have also heard Dan Bier from 2 Inches Short, who is, I hope you're all looking at the video of this, who was in the media center at Augusta National, and nobody seems to be upset that he's live streaming from there in a t-shirt. Go figure. And back in April, when we believe the Masters did take place, and we put together a fantasy broadcast of that play-by-play, one of the voices and faces and the guy who really helped put it all together was Jon Bloom, longtime friend, and he joins us from his Masters room in Arizona. So to all of you, thanks for doing this. It's kind of fun to get together and talk with other golf aficionados in the moments right after a major like this. And here's DJ going 20 under in 2020, and it just an unusual time for the Masters to take place. So Jason Guss, let me start with you. What are your takeaways from a November Masters?
It was pretty amazing, actually. I think just to sit down and watch golf in November and have some sort of normalcy back was great. The golf course, it was a different golf course this year. The rough was a little higher. It was a little softer. Greens were maybe a little more, passive. They weren't quite as firm and aggressive as they were in the past. My biggest takeaway was Dustin hitting 60 of 72 greens in regulation is crazy. And then the other thing, they always talk about Augusta being more of a drawer's golf course. I think the softer fairways allowed Dustin to play more cuts on those right to left tee shots. It made it really beneficial for him.
The condition of the course, the softness, the receptivity of it is something that we're not used to throughout the tournament. You might get a rainy day in April that would soften things up for a bit. Bloomer, I don't know if the sub-air system was, if they didn't put a quarter in the machine or if they just chose not to use it, but it certainly did play a little differently, didn't it?
It did, and I think maybe, Bill, they were expecting more rain, and that's why it's always been fascinating to me how they manipulate everything there at Augusta National, because a lot of it has to do with what they expect from a weather standpoint. So, meteorologists play a role in how this golf course plays. As much as that sounds bizarre, it's actually true, because they're looking at the forecast and they're deciding how aggressive they want to be. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, any of the guys who are on here, but from what I understand, the Green Jackets have all the power of when to turn the sub-air on and when to not have it on. It's not like it's something that's always on, but they can power it up differently during different times. So if there's a deluge, obviously, here's what they do. Not only do they turn the sub-air onto N, but they also pour all that manure down on the ground. If you've been there after a rainstorm, you understand that place smells horrible.
Like
you wouldn't even believe you're walking on the hallowed grounds of Augusta National. And yeah, it smells ridiculously bad, but it also is a way that they can cope with the wet conditions of the golf course, and they do it better than anybody I've seen. So this week, I think maybe they expected more moisture, Bill, and then it ended up getting firmer and faster down the stretch, and it really didn't seem to bother Dustin Johnson. I don't know what on this planet can bother that guy. I mean, he just cruises along. Has anyone told him he's won the Masters yet? I'm not sure if he even has realized it.
My favorite meme from the entire week was whoever put together the menu that Dustin would offer for next year's champion dinner, and it just had the word sandwiches on it. That was the best thing I saw all week. Adam Fonseca, November Masters, your impressions before we get into some of the specifics.
Well, I love coffee golf. Let's just say that. I mean, waking up early, seeing golf at Augusta National, and let's just, kudos where it's deserved. The Masters and the folks at Augusta National did a fantastic job with the website, with the app, with everything. You could see every shot from every player. It was incredible. And as far as the tournament itself in November, I'm actually torn on it. I love the fact that we got to see Augusta National in a different way, as you described earlier. But we're also pretty accustomed to seeing Augusta play in a certain way. And so that wasn't this week. And certainly with all the other factors and variables that played into this very different Masters, for me, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit more, but for me, it felt a little bit more dull than in the past. But that being said, we got to see Augusta in a completely different way. As you mentioned, the rough was higher, the pine needles everywhere. It was just different. And for that in itself was a spectacle.
And it's kind of hard for it not to be a little more dull when there's nobody cheering and there's no sounds echoing through the trees. And well, Dan Bier, clearly you're there with 2 inches short. So what was it like on the site, on the grounds?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not on the grounds, Bill.
What?
I know it seems.
What?
It seems like I'm there. But
More fake news. That's all we need in this country. Is more fake news.
Sorry. But yeah, DJ is a Masters champion, and it's a pleasure being with you guys, by the way. Just want to let you know, being able to watch a Masters in November this year, is this crazy year that we've had. It's nice to have a real champion as continuing the tradition from 2019. And I think that there was a wonderful way to look at something, a tournament, putting it in a different spot on the calendar. The course, I hope they didn't play full price to play those greens. No, I'm kidding. I think that they're slightly, I don't know, it was just a different golf course. I mean, where was the pin on 16 today? Like, there traditionally things kind of were a little bit off for me. I'm not saying that's why Tiger didn't win. I think I'm just kidding. But I do believe that there was a different. It has the same energy, but it's a different air without patrons, obviously. And I think we have a worthy champion, and he broke a scoring record by 2. The way we were able to watch it, with the app, like Adam was saying, the way it played, I mean, it just was cool. I mean, I was fortunate to be there 1 year at the thing back in 2017. So I get a sense of like what I'm looking at, because you really can't tell on on the TV, like what the undulations are, and also I don't think they call mud at Augusta. I think
not mud.
It's what is it? It's earth.
It's organic matter.
Organic matter. Okay. So yeah, again, this is not, I don't want to just I want to be able to play the golf course at some point in my life. So I don't want to speak too poorly of it, but I'm looking forward to April.
Danny, after Tiger took the 10 on number 12 today, you still thought he had a chance to win, didn't you?
No, okay. All right. Let's back the bus up a little bit. He had a chance after day 1. And then his back looked tight, first of all. And I think we could all agree there. But secondly, I got more text messages from people concerned for my safety than people actually are caring about me more than like my birthday.
Are you okay right now?
I'm okay. And the fact that he birdied 5 of 6 on the way in, and he's never birdied 15 through 18. And I think he still knows how to play golf. So I'm all right with it.
So when somebody
he just needs to make a couple more septuple bogeys just to kind of ease the tension, so he could go rattle off 5 out of 6 birdies. Yeah, just
Right.
a septuplet will lead to 5 out of 6. I don't know if that math works out in my head, but it looked great on him though.
Bloomer.
I was Bill. I was yelling "stop the count" as he was piling up the. It was.
Bloomer, you have to tread lightly with Danny. You have to know that this man is a Tiger Woods diehard, and it was every time a ball rolled back into Rays Creek on 12, a part of Dan Bier went in there as well. And every time Joey went back to the bag for another ball, it was as if Danny had to buy that ball at Augusta rates and throw it over. It was very, very painful. Jason Guss, Dustin Johnson, a remarkable performance, obviously. You've studied and worked with a lot of different skill level golfers, from the top of the echelon like Dustin and myself to the other end. What's his thing? What's his secret? What's his magic to what happened this week?
Well, you can't rattle the guy. I mean, he never looks rattled out there. He's very calm. His routine is very simple and very fast. He doesn't give himself a lot of chance to think about what's going on, and then the guy is an amazing ball striker on top of that. I mean, this is, I said earlier, he has 60 to 72 greens in regulation. If you go back, 2-3 years ago, he finished 9th on the tour in greens in regulation. So when you drive it 320 down the middle of every fairway like he did this week, people would say, well, that's why he hits all the greens in regulation. Well, the fun just starts at Augusta once you get to hit an approach shot. So, when you drive at 320 and then you can hit a high percentage of greens, I mean, that's a really nice recipe. I think they had a stat this week that every Masters winner has hit at least 56 out of 72 greens, I think, and he hit 60. I mean, so it's just a recipe for success out there. So with his demeanor and his ball striking, a little bit of soft conditions, I think it's a perfect recipe for him.
And while he certainly supports exactly what you said, I was blown away by his, dare I say, thinking his way around the golf course on a Sunday afternoon where he wasn't necessarily at his sharpest ball striking. So there were layups, there was wedge play, there was like conversation between DJ and brother Austin that I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but I didn't really know they had it in them to do that kind of thing. Adam, you were watching along as well, and I guess what I'm trying to say is there have been times when post-round interview, after some poorly judged approach shot, and Dustin was asked what went wrong on that shot, he goes, "Oh, we had the yardage book upside down." Right? I mean, that's real. That did happen at some point a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So it really seems like whatever triggered it, that DJ and AJ today had their thinking caps on.
Yeah, there's something that just, I think, and I'm speaking on behalf of someone who watches and not who has ever competed nor ever will. But there's something about Augusta that really just puts you into a different gear. We've had past champions talk about this before, something special about the place that makes you think differently and make you want to succeed in many times a childhood dream, which is what Dustin mentioned in his green jacket ceremony just a little bit ago. He said this is something that he dreamed about. And so it's nice to see when, a brother relationship like that can work through a course that we've all seen hundreds of times. Either we've played it on Tiger Woods video games, like I know Dan probably has done many times before, or we've watched the Masters every single year for as long as we can remember. Everybody knows how that course is going to be played or how the winners have played it. And the way that they thought through, especially today, especially after 2 consecutive bogeys by DJ, it didn't rattle him at all, as was mentioned earlier. That was just a testament to, hey, they really were dialed in here. They made some really uncharacteristic decisions in a good way for Dustin Johnson. The layups that you mentioned is certainly the most evident. That's something that, they came out with a game plan, they stuck to it, and it worked to a record-breaking degree.
There was maybe a total of 19 minutes of drama in this final round. And all of that took place on the front 9. So, Bloomer, as much of it as you were able to take in, when did you think it was a done deal?
Well, you know what? I was really impressed by Cameron Smith. I thought that, all the guys that were pursuing DJ, he was the one that had the best chance because he was pulling stuff out of his rear end from the pine straw from the very beginning and made a couple amazing shots. And a lot of times, if you do see somebody make a run and compete and contend and maybe win, it takes some of those miraculous shots. We can look back in the history and point them out. They come to mind almost immediately when you think of winners year after year. I don't know if I can think of any miraculous shots hit by Dustin Johnson. I just think he went out and absolutely manhandled the golf course. And it's impressive in so many ways because, you know, as much as I agree with everything that you guys are saying too, I'm also thinking about it from a standpoint that he probably could have easily been 24, 25, 26 under par the way he played this golf course if he just took advantage of a couple of other shots that he had. So to answer your question, Billy, I did think it was over before the turn. I didn't ever really feel like it was close in the back nine, but I did want to give the Australian Cameron Smith, who's a young player, a lot of credit for the way he hung in there. Sungjae Im deserves some credit too because he was right there. And of all the other big names that could have made a run, it was those two that came closest. So Justin Thomas was in the vicinity. Rory McIlroy showed up here and there, and Jon Rahm kind of fell off the table. I thought it might have been his week with the way it started, Bill. That's speaking of magic. I mean, we'll all remember the skipping across the water hazard to make it. I mean, it's one thing to get it on the green. That's always been fascinating when they get it to sit on the green. He made the damn thing.
I know, that's crazy. And it also reminds me, I'm glad you said that. It reminds me of the big names that did fade, because I can guarantee you, of every golf fan on the face of the planet, there's not one who put in their betting slip in this order: Dustin Johnson, Smith, Im, then followed by Justin Thomas and Rory McIlroy. Nobody. You could have gotten some pretty good odds if you had tried to draw that is it a trifecta, whatever that is, together. So Dan Bier, biggest surprise to you that DJ won in as dominant a way as he did, or that DeChambeau flopped in as profound a way as he did? Which one's the bigger on your surprise-o-meter?
Thanks for giving me a Bryson question. I'm sorry, let me gather myself. I think, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, who's the bigger surprise? DJ's win or Bryson's collapse?
Oh God, this is such a hard question, Bill. I think DJ. I'm going to say. I think DJ winning the Masters is a bigger surprise than Bryson not. Well, I don't know. He's playing par 67 this week, right? So he was like 10. How many over was he? I don't even know.
Way over.
But the fact, I mean, the guy, the fact that he was even under par. I think he finished under par, right? And like 2 under. Is incredible. But I honestly think DJ is a bigger surprise because he was 0 for 4 coming into a major leading after 54 holes. He seemed to give us all a little bit of, uncertainty in the first couple holes, and you didn't know which way it was going to go. But he appears to be a different golfer now. I don't know, maybe after he talked to Wayne Gretzky, having him in his family. I don't really know. But there's something, a switch has flipped with DJ. And I mean, his best is pretty much unstoppable. And then, and then we were talking, I thought you were going to ask me what the bigger surprise is. And it's also Rory not playing in the first round. And so, like, the fact that he was right there, had a chance to, complete the career Grand Slam, and, still, I mean, he could do it in 5 months. But, I mean, yeah, I think DJ is the, for me, is the bigger surprise. Bryson, real quick, what a bleep show that was the first 2 days. I'm, I know, we're live. I can't be, whatever. But, that was it. I don't know. You guys have any thoughts? Bill, do you have any thoughts on Bryson? I don't know. I ran out of jokes at some point.
I've got all kind of thoughts, but I'm guessing you're holding back on something. So get it off your chest, man.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, we came in with like these, every single thing was written about him saying he was going to destroy this golf course, and Bernard Langer, he's 63 years old. He beat him.
I love that. I love that.
So that's this is my concise version of what I think about Bryson. I mean, did you hear him afterwards? He's like, I'm going to go home and get stronger.
More protein shakes, probably.
Yeah, more protein shakes. I don't know, but I don't know, but yeah, and also DJ's response with the sandwiches question was pretty amazing. And then, did you see that photo of him walking off the green on 18 by any chance?
Today?
Got a handful of. Well, it's the family show. We can talk about it later.
He had a handful of company.
Of company in
Oh,
his
very
palm,
good.
walking off the 18th green like a true champion.
That's
sure
the Dan I know, right?
That's all I'm talking about.
I missed that part as I was getting ready for this, but I'm sure you
That's
caught
cool.
it.
I was getting ready for this too, Bill.
Green cap for that for sure. Jason, a couple of things were proven to us this week. One, distance is definitely a benefit. Dustin Johnson showed that, but it's not the only thing that matters. Bernard Langer showed us that. The other thing that I think would really be interesting from a teacher's standpoint is how Sungjae Im got up and down everywhere, all the time, in instances where the analysts were saying, well, if he gets it within 20 feet here, this is going to be a fantastic shot. Boom, 3 feet. Next hole, he's missing it far right, down slope, nowhere to go. Boom, 2.5 feet. What can we learn as amateur hackers from what we saw from Mr. Im? Because I would be so irritated if I was playing him for my 50-cent skins.
Well, the first thing is, I made the comment earlier today, and I could be wrong on this comment. If the Masters was played in April and the greens were firmer and faster, I don't know if we would have saw that. That's the first thing I'll say. But I spent in 2018, I spent a lot of time on the web.com tour, and that's when Sungjae won by double the money of anyone else out there. And when you look at Sungjae's stats, they're all in the middle of the field except one stat, scoring. It's bizarro world. And it was the one thing I remember. I had one junior in my life, and everyone used to say to me, what's he good at? Does he drive it good? No. Does he hit his irons good? Yeah, okay. Is he putt good? It's okay. What's he good at? Scoring. I mean, you can go look him up. It's a bizarre thing. The guy knows how to score, which is why he's so consistent week in and week out. And I said it 2 years ago when it came off the web. I think this guy will win 3 or 4 majors just because on hard golf courses, he just doesn't do anything too crazy.
Hits it on a straight rope off the tee. When he gets a little loose with the irons. Now is he 22, 23 years old? Okay, so he's basically, in golf professional standpoint, he's still in diapers and unflappable. I don't know how that happens, but I would think that it would really rattle the cage of playing partners, especially if he was ever in a match play situation where you think, I got him, and then he would come and stick that dagger in. So I guess the question that I have for you, Jason, is what do we take away from that? How should what we saw from Sungjae Im perhaps shape our practice habits and our focus?
Well, I think there's 2 things. I think Dustin and Sungjae are very similar. Obviously not personality types, but they're very good at knowing what they do well. DJ is very calm. He sticks to his game plan, does what he does. Sungjae, Nick Faldo said on Friday morning, he walked by Sungjae and asked Sungjae how his draw was working because Sungjae never hits a draw. And he looked at Nick and he says, I know draw. That's what he says. I know draw, So Sungjae just goes out there and he's got his fade and he'll play his fade until the cows come home. I mean, he's really good at knowing what he does. And I think as amateur golfers, I was given a golf lesson the other day and this kid had hit 50 wedges and 49 of the 50, he pulled 10 yards. And I said, look, and I drew a little green of, a little replica green of number 12. And I said, if you were hitting a wedge into the 12th green at Augusta and that pin was on the left, you can't aim at that pin. You got to know who you are as a golfer. And I think these PGA Tour players, one thing they're great at, they're obviously great ball strikers, but they know their tendencies. And when the pressure goes up, they know their tendencies even more.
Adam, there were a couple of moments where cameras captured DJ and Sungjae having conversation. Since Sungjae doesn't speak English, I would love to get your insight as to what you think was transpiring in that moment, because they looked to be fairly engaged. There's no chance there were actual words being understood either direction.
You know, Dustin Johnson teared up on the 18th hole. Maybe he knows Korean. I, we learned a lot of different things about DJ this week,
Well, he
but you're
had
right. I mean,
pandemic. He had some time down to learn some things and maybe pick up a new language.
you know, just pick up some Rosetta Stone and you're good. Really. I mean, you just kind of look ahead. You know, it's funny because Sung Jae and Cam Smith, I mean, talk about just absolute just powerhouses, you know, get running into a buzzsaw, you know, I mean, could you imagine shooting 15 under at the Masters and losing by 5? Like, that's incredible. Those two guys, I mean, I will take, Jason, if you can help me get that power fade or that little fade that M hit all week, I'll take it. I'll play that the rest of my life. That was such an art form to watch. Granted, DJ did everything that he did, but that was just so impressive. And I think you're right. That guy's going to win multiple majors, especially at his age. And quite frankly, I mean, President's Cup, I mean, or any other team event that he plays in, he's going to be a powerhouse to deal with then too. He was so impressive. I think, you know, I know you asked Dan the question about what was the bigger takeaway for DJ and Bryson. For me, overall, it was Sung Jae Im. I mean, he was incredible.
Bloomer, you've been on the grounds for how many Masters working for CBS?
12.
All right, so 12 of them. Would you, now that you've seen a November edition, would you choose November over April?
Never. Not once. I want April back. This was cool to have it, but let's get our lives the way they were back and let the Masters signify the rite of spring and everything else that goes along with it. Let's have the galleries and the patrons and all that. This was, like I said, this was very impressive, and you guys mentioned it too, that they pulled it off, and I was absolutely thrilled to watch it. I was geared up almost all week with my stuff. I have all my cups out. I was teaching the girls little stories that they, you know, my daughters that were ignoring every single word out of my mouth, I'm sure, but I still said it all. And so in those respects, it was a nice week, and it was great to have the Masters. But yes, I absolutely think it belongs in April. I look forward to the next one, and I think that hopefully by then they'll be able to put up the grandstands and have it look the way we're used to it looking for the tournament. But I do give a lot of credit to all the people at Augusta National, to my colleagues at CBS, and everybody at ESPN, and the people behind the scenes, as Adam mentioned, with the app. That was fantastic to be able to watch not just featured groups in Amen Corner, but virtually every single shot of the tournament. So for, you know, those types of things, it was nice. But I think that from a traditionalist standpoint, you know me, Billy, I love the tradition of it. I want to go back to April and have it be, you know, all the things that go into it and why it's so special that time of year. And I would love to go back someday as well, maybe even as a patron. I did the 12 years with CBS and it was fantastic. I'd like to go back as a patron and experience it that way with my family someday. So I'm still kind of keeping my fingers crossed for that to happen.
A couple of questions for all of you regarding some events that transpired during the tournament. The most, I think, the top of the headline list would be the lost ball penalty assessed on Bryson with the tee shot that went left. And then it was found by the marshal like before he putted out, but it was after the 3 minutes. I get it. I know that there are hard and fast rules in the game, so I get it. We also know probably if patrons were there, somebody would have found the ball. Jason Guss, I hate that rule. And I'm not here to defend Bryson. I'm not really a Bryson fan. I think he's actually a mental midget and a physical beast. But I don't think that should have been a lost ball penalty. I don't know how you don't get everybody goes, yeah, we know it's right here. We know we had enough rain that we could have built an arc. And even though it's not rising up over our shoes, clearly the ball went underground here. What was that? I know the ruling was correct according to the rule. Should that be the rule?
Oh, that's a tough question, Bill. Come on. That's harder than the DeChambeau Dustin question. That's no fair. Man, that's a tough one. You know, then you'd have to go back to say, hey, Adam Scott's ball one hopped off the flag and went in the water. Is that fair?
Well, let me stop you for a second because I've thought about that as the response, and my response to that would be, Adam was unfairly penalized on a shot that that nobody doubted where the ball was. He hit a good shot, caromed in, everybody knew where it was. Had Bryson, by the way, hit his ball deep into the forest, but somehow it wasn't in a marked area and then they penalized, we're all like, yeah, don't hit it in there, dude. In this case, it's like, I don't know, 20 paces left to the green. So I don't know that those are apples and apples comparison.
Do you remember when Phil hit it way left? I believe it was a U.S. Open, and he told, "Don't find my ball.
Yes.
Don't find it." And some guy goes, "Bill, it's over here."
It's like, I told you not to find it.
I mean, it's one of these things where like it's part of the game, and you know what? That's where today, what Tiger did today after he made a 10, like it's the best thing that can happen for teachers out there that teach juniors is to go, look what he did. You know what? He made a 10, he birdied 5 of the last 6, forget about it, move on. Because that's the thing that, you know, you have to forget and move on. You know, the best athletes have the shortest memories. And albeit Tiger didn't want to do that today, like he helped all his teachers a lot. So we appreciate that, Tiger, if there's any consolation to that.
Well, and to rise to Tiger's defense, right before I bring in Dan Bier, which will make Dan very happy, Tiger's post-round interview was really good. His conversation with Amanda, it was just really good. It was, hey, you know, I misjudged the wind. And from there, you know, then he said, and then I just kept hitting a lot of shots. It was kind of humorous, which was actually legit. So Dan Bier, think of this in these terms. Let's say that was Tiger's tee shot. It
would have never been lost, first of all.
Because I know you think since it was Bryson's, it probably should have had a couple extra shots thrown on top of it. Just
no, I saw you. I saw you talk about the fact that you didn't think the ruling, just real quick, the ruling was fair, but. And I said back to you that he shouldn't have hit it that high and that far, right? And you know, there's golf's a dumb game. I think we could all agree. Even we do it for a living, whatever. It's just you have rules, and this is one of those rules. I mean, it's just like Augusta. I know we're not calling mud on the ball, but when there's mud on the ball, you know, why can't you clean it off? It's going to affect your shot. Like it's going to happen. So would that have happened if Tiger hit it offline? And then first of all, Bryson hit 2 in the same exact spot. So whatever. But I think that if Tiger was in that situation, I think there probably would have even, sorry if I have a cat next to me. There's hang on a sec.
I didn't see that coming.
Sorry about his name is Tiger, by the way. So,
of course it is. It's not going to be
there are cats in the media room, but they don't let Bill in the media room.
They don't let Bill. I mean, allow me to keep my hat on, but I think that if it was Tiger, I don't think that would have happened. I mean, remember when we moved an entire boulder for him that one time? I mean, I think, and also Tiger would have never hit it there. So, I mean, you can't compare them, but I don't think that's the rule. Did you hear him say this, dude? When he was like, you mean if we can't find it, it's a lost ball? And it's like, bro, what the come on, man. All right.
That's like Wednesday night league stuff there.
Right. This is the same man who did ask for the fire ant ruling a few months ago. We do understand that. However, Adam Fonseca, at least in this case, Hulk didn't break anything. He quietly got back in the cart, went back to the tee, and then, as Danny mentioned, hit the shot to the same spot again. So your impressions of Bryson this week?
Oh, man. Well, you don't go into a week saying that you're playing to a par 67 at Augusta National. Bad things are just going to happen because then you set yourself up, and in the world that we live in, whether we like it or not, people are going to be looking for that. And I know I was ready to lead that charge if for some reason that man did anything different than what happened. And then you saw, Bill, I mean, I wasn't going to be surprised if he missed the cut. And I as a betting man, I wagered as much, and he made the cut on the number. So, you know, it's funny though, because Bryson, he honestly, he brings it onto himself. He's a lightning rod for a lot of different reasons, but what he's doing with the game, certainly polarizing. It's something to be appreciated, though, because he's actually, it is a brand thing for him. We all remember the whole cameraman run in a little bit ago, protect the brand type thing, but he's going to, I hope, grow out of that. He's still very young. He's a heck of a player, and that's understating that. He's got the talent to belong in the upper echelon of current golfers. He doesn't need to have all that other stuff. He doesn't need to do the 6 to 7 protein shakes a day and then wonder why his stomach hurts and why he's dizzy. I mean, there's a lot of that goes on too. And so I think once he understands from a PR perspective that he doesn't have to become the character of Bryson DeChambeau, he will be the player and the champion of Bryson DeChambeau, and I'm excited to see it.
Bloomer, you've done the multiple protein shake approach to a lot of things. How's that worked out in your life?
I'm a little dizzy, Billy. I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but just a little lightheaded, heavy-bodied, lightheaded. No, you know what? It's a weird situation with Bryson because I feel like so much of golf, you're told to quiet the mind. And right now, I feel like his is louder than a rock concert. And I know you called him a mental midget. Some people like to call him the scientist or whatever. There's all these different names. I just feel like that thing's working a little bit harder than it needs to be upstairs because he has the makeup and the game to compete. It's pretty clear. And I like watching him play. I think it's a fascinating take on the game. I think he clearly has a temper, and as somebody who once in my life had one as well, I understand that it's a difficult animal to tame. And he's gotten himself in trouble with it and he probably will continue to do so. The thing about Augusta National, though, is when you feel like you've got it, that's when it's going to get you. And I agree with Adam. It's 67 as a par. But if you think about that, if he was even, he would have tied BJ for the week, right? Isn't that 20 under if you go 67 4 times? So, he was up to something there in his mind. He knew maybe that was what it was going to take this week, and he was accurate with that, but he was nowhere close on the golf course himself. And I hope he gets his health in order, gets his mind right as well. I know he's talking about his body and dizziness and all that, but I think a lot of what he's concocting with this whole plan is leading him to, maybe be susceptible for that. And we saw it this week, but I think he'll be back. I think he's got enough there to put it all together and be a force on the tour for a long time.
I need to kind of add some context to my mental midget concept. I actually kind of mean emotionally. He's a smart guy. I mean, he's got numbers flying around up there like the lottery barrel that they spin. I mean, there's stuff just careening around like the inside of a dryer, but it's the emotions and the way that you can come through some adversity. So I don't think he's dumb at all. I just think he's got to kind of grow up on that emotional side of things. One of the things, though, that Mr. DeChambeau has brought to our game is this question about single length clubs. I find this fascinating. Jason Guss.
Man, I'm getting some tough ones tonight, aren't I?
What's up with what are the pros and what are the cons of having that be your bag?
Have you guys ever tried single length clubs? Yeah. So every year I go do all the testing for Golf Digest for the hot list. So every year they bring out the single length clubs and, they go through the science of it and all that. And then I try them and then I really hate them. And then I go back to my regular length clubs. It's supposed to give you the same setup, the same feel, all the same things going on. But, the way I look at it is the masses aren't doing it. Like there's one guy doing it. Like these professionals out there, they'll try anything if they think they can get 1/10 of a shot better. So these guys, most of them have probably tried it. To me, it gets really tough with the wedges. The wedges feel terrible to me. I feel like I have way less control over the wedges, which if you look at Bryson this week, and one of the things you talk about Augusta is, you can drive it up there into wedge range all day, but you got to have superior wedge distance control. And he did not have that. I saw time and time again, he hit an iron in there, short, long, and he was really not controlling his wedge as well. So, I understand the concept of it. I'm not a huge fan of it. Not saying it's right or wrong. Just me personally, I don't love it.
There were a couple of times where I remember seeing him from, let's say, 160-ish, and they would say he's got a wedge in his hands. And I thought, yeah, you could probably hit it that far, but I don't think that's what the wedge was made for.
I do that too, and then I put it back in my bag to grab a 7.
Yeah, so it's just interesting. And, there was a prediction a while ago when he first broke through that trend would start seeping into the game. I'm not really seeing that demand for the single leg clubs, but it is interesting to watch how he performs with it. And you're right, Jason, for as good a player as he is, the quality of his play from the scoring zone is not very consistent. I guess we'd put it that way.
And it's pretty interesting. We could say that about the average golfer. One of the things when you get on short par fours, they'll drive it up there to 50 yards or 70 yards. And it's like, you'd be better off hitting it from 120. They get up in these in-between wedges. They're really hard to hit. So maybe he's doing that. So he can relate to the average golfer a little bit more.
Yeah, we're all just relating directly to him. That's us. Okay, we're going to get this thing wrapped up by going quickly around the horn. We have another Masters coming up in just a few months. Is there, right now, who is at the top of your picks list? Dan Bier.
Come on, Bill. You know who I'm going to pick first of all.
Secondly, yeah.
I'm going to pick Tiger. It's not like what? Shocking, right? It just gets him into a different gear. I think his back was not 100% this week. I think he was a little bit stiff. I also think Bryson can't read a green. What's up?
His back was the reason he couldn't make a putt.
It's partly probably one of the reasons. But I don't think having the pins at different spots, it's just weird. All the court, it's just weird. But I do think Bryson has to learn how to read a green, if I might say so, because I believe Augusta is the only course on tour that they don't allow greens reading books. Is that correct?
And by the way, they got through their rounds much more quickly.
Yeah, and he missed a lot of putts, surprisingly. So, I think that has something to do with it. What did you say, John? Did someone say something? I'm sorry.
No, they were just trying to figure out how you're picking Tiger. Go ahead.
Well, when you do the math, he's won 5 of them, and he's going to play until he's like 60 if his back holds up. But besides that, I'm taking Tiger. I thought, when Dustin's rolling, obviously, it just brings out the best in players, it seems like. And I think these softer golf courses, and I think the soft and also not having fans helps a lot of these guys. And I think Tiger needs fans.
Yeah. By the way, earlier this afternoon, I had a friend text me a photo of his betting slip from the MGM casino, and he had Cam Smith at 200-1. Needless to say, he was really pulling hard. And for 200-1 to come in second place, that's awfully taunting to the guy who holds a betting slip worth thousands of dollars. So,
that's cool.
Bloomer in April, where are you looking? Bloomer in April.
It's going to be hard to go up against, the defending champ. Yeah, do you hear me? It will be hard to go up against the defending champ. Who will not be Tiger Woods. He will be Dustin Johnson. Yet I think I'll just throw I'll switch the letters and go JT instead of DJ. I think Justin Thomas will be the next Masters champion because I think he's got the game for it. He didn't play great this week, but he was still kind of knocking on the door and at least in the movie, as they say. So, I'll stick with that. But Justin Thomas will get his green jacket from Dustin Johnson.
Can you imagine being the Masters champ, but only for 5 months and having to hand your jacket back in right after you just got it? That could happen. Adam, where are you looking in April?
Well, one of two things is going to happen, I think. It's either going to be Bryson coming out and winning by like 10, because he'll just figure it out and he'll come out and do it. But I really think Rory finishes his Grand Slam. He put on a show these last 3 rounds. He crept up a little bit today. little bit today. He was there, and he seems like he always does that. Just, he's kind of out of it, and then all of a sudden he's on the first page again. So I would love to see him, finish that chapter in April.
Jason.
Can I say Bernhard longer? I mean, he still does a pretty good job out there. No, I won't say Bernhard, but that crazy impressive what he's able to do. Unbelievable. I mean, I got to say, at some point with DeChambeau's length, he's going to figure out when to use it, when to not use it, which is a very tough thing to do. It's like giving a 16-year-old a Porsche 911 turbo and telling him to drive 25 mile an hour. So when he can figure that out, I think he's got a chance. Whether that's at the Masters next year or not, I don't know. But boy, Jon Rahm he's a really great player, and he's got that fire, and this guy's going to win some majors, and it's a matter of time. And that's a great golf course for him to do it on.
Yeah, Rahm was my pick this week, and then I'm watching him on Saturday as he hits a grounder on 8 into the woods, and I was like, no, that's my pick. What's happening? And it just all collapsed and went downhill from there. It's like, man, you don't have to do that on my account. I know what that feels like. We can all hit grounders. You're not supposed to do that. So, well, it was fascinating, and it's kind of fun to see what I think is the maturing of Dustin Johnson, not just from a player standpoint, but from just an adulthood standpoint. And I don't know if you guys had a moment to watch the always awkward Butler cabin ceremony, but in the conversation between Nance and DJ, I was actually quite impressed with the way that DJ put into words what it meant to him to win this, to have his brother there with him, and the kind of things that probably from an unfair caricature standpoint, we don't often ascribe emotion to Dustin Johnson. Just because he doesn't have it flowing outwardly doesn't mean that the butterflies aren't churning inside. And you could see that a little bit at the beginning of the round. So good stuff. And now we can hold out hope. And I know you're all right here with me. We can all hold out hope that in April, the pandemic is gone, the bleachers are filled, and my credential request is granted. I know we're all the last part's never going to happen. But up until then, we were on a roll. Guys, thank you so much. Good stuff, man. Really appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.